and you may find this as well in your organizations, when you're managing a global workforce, everything begins with the worker type and the country that the person sits in. And until you understand those two things as key to that person's HR profile, if you will, it's hard for you to make decisions about hiring, compensation, benefits, statutory compliance. I don't also think that that's a one size fits all. So I think it's very important when you think about the team building aspects to think about what type of workers you have, what is the work that they're doing, what are the outcomes that you're hoping to think about from a team building perspective and creating the connections and that closeness to your teammates, which we know drives higher levels of engagement and retention. I think it's, what is the business do? What are the workers doing? To your point, you mentioned knowledge workers or people that might need to have those water cooler moments. And does the organization value that? If yes, how would we do it? And then, okay, we've got to be intentional about running everything from a playbook, articulating how we work remotely, articulating the management responsibilities, training the workforce to the expectations, and then hiring people that will be successful in that environment. We do think about performance management in a couple of ways, looking at both our subjective and objective inputs, as well as our values. We use objectives and key results and have most of our roles are able to have very clear metrics that are assigned on an individual level so that you can identify success, you can identify when someone is struggling, you understand what they're inputting, and then the impact that is coming out of it. We need you to think globally and holistically. We need you to think about things like I mentioned before, worker type and country as you're making decisions and managing your team. And then think about these more subjective things around the social and the engagement and the connections of your team and what data inputs you can look at to, like I said, be more predictive and understanding if someone is struggling, successful, connecting people, if they're not connecting on their own. I think that we will see different types of worker statuses and classifications that countries and governments and regulatory bodies are forced to take a look at to understand, is it as black and white as independent contractor and employee, or what is a flexible hybrid type of worker who's nomadic, cross borders, multiple countries? How do you manage this type of thing? And I think that we will continue to see in the future of work, a new type of worker classification.
What I see these days, right, in terms of hiring, maybe, right, and hiring and retaining talent in APAC, I think it largely depends as well on the countries. In Hong Kong, for example, right, as some of you may be familiar, living spaces, right, is tight, it's smaller by default, right? So when you talk about being completely remote, some actually during interview stage, they will ask you, right, actually, I want to work from an office, right? So I actually want to, right? I have to, right? It's not that I don't value the flexibility. I value the flexibility, but actually I need a place to be stationed at, right? Because my current situation at home doesn't permit it. Or for example, someone commuting in Jakarta, right? Some of you who are actually familiar with Jakarta, it might take like 3 hours, right? Sometime to get from point A to point B. So for them, they value, right? So for them being working from home or having the completely remote work styles actually works really well for them, right? And they demand that, right? I think it's being able to flex, right, the approach in remote work.